Hello, everyone. Michael E. Parker here. And listen, have you ever been guilty of realizing that you are too comfortable and that you've become a person that's been complacent in certain areas of your life, and you know there's more you could be doing, you know there's more you could be reaching for, you know there's more you could be accomplishing, but somehow you end up back in the same place every single time doing what you've always done. And we're going to talk today about how your comfort zone is killing you, because the comfort zone is such a dangerous place and often a place we find ourselves without even trying. We find our place in this stuck state where we're trying to get past some of the things that keep us where we've always been. We go through the same circles, the same cycles, and this is, again, an enemy to all growth and success. And so I want to invite you to our channel here. I am Michael E. Parker, and we're going to be talking about something that is so critical to anyone out there who wants to be a successful leader, a successful entrepreneur, and a growing professional. All of us have to deal with this issue. Now, I want you to understand something. When you think about, how we are, wired and how we think and how we portray ourselves and what we, tend to, display to others, it's all related to things that we've been through. And there's such a, staggering understanding and a depth to really getting what it means to identify the dangers of comfort zone. And I want, everyone, to really begin to grasp how critical it is for you to not only identify when this actually is happening to you and when it's actually affecting your life, but how to also eliminate it, how to also get rid of it, how to also start doing things in a way that will prevent you from being in that situation. Now, I want you to keep in mind that there's a lot of things that we have to deal with. There's a lot of things we have to do that is very, very critical. If we don't make sure that all the things that are required are actually done, next thing you know, there's something that will come up. Now, I can tell you this. I understand a lot about going through things and coming through challenges. Some of you have heard my story, coming through a lot of things as a young man. I've seen a lot of challenges in life. And, all of you, I'm sure, have a similar story. You've got something you've come through, something that you've experienced, something that you've done. And those things contribute to how we find ourselves landing in what we call the comfort zone. We end up in a situation where we're always, thinking back about things that were dangerous or things that hurt us or things that bothered us or things that got in our way. And because of that, we often end up in a situation where we don't even know why we feel like we feel and why we actually are embracing a certain type of thought pattern that is keeping us in the wrong place. Now, I want you to consider that because we're going to talk about several things related to that. But before we do, let's stop off for a minute and talk a little bit about the brain. Now, I want to pull my whiteboard up here for a minute, and I want you to keep something in mind. So we've got our brain here, right? And we think about this brain, and we got the left and right side there, right? And we've got our brain. Now, when we think about our brain, it begins to understand things as either in what we call the comfort zone, or it sees things as outside of the comfort zone, right? So these are really, in the brain, a lot of times, these are two options that the brain thinks in. And so this is very critical. The comfort zone becomes something that your brain is actually deciding whether or not it feels that that thing is in the comfort zone or not, right? And so it sends things and says, you know what, add that to the comfort zone. That's not difficult to do. That's not a problem, right? That's not something to be concerned about. And this is very critical because oftentimes when we translate staying comfortable, we don't realize we're actually contributing to stopping growth. So sometimes we misunderstand the discomfort of growth we try to redefine it as unnecessary change. So this is something not necessary to do. This is a change we don't have to make. This is how we justify it in our brain. This is a change we don't have. It's not necessary. We don't have to do it. But really, we're really feeling the discomfort of growth. And because we feel that discomfort, we redefine it as unnecessary change. And this is what keeps us where we are. So when you think about that, I want you to consider there's some things in this comfort zone, right? So let me show you some things here. Let's go big screen. I want to show you some things here about the comfort zone, things that are in here. We want things that are easy, right? We want things that are familiar, right? Things that are changeless, right? We don't want to change, right? Low risk, right? Things that are known, no surprises, right? We want thoughtless, right? I don't have to think about it. We want things that are guaranteed, right? We know, things that are certain, right? We want things that are unvulnerable, right? Don't require me to get vulnerable. So I want you to understand this, that all of this has to do with the comfort zone. So what happens is when you begin to actually start dealing with things and you start to consider different things, you are looking for things that are easy, low risk, known, familiar, thoughtless, and so forth. And this is why people don't tend to grow, because we all are by nature wired to try to find things that are this way, right? We want the easiest way to get in shape. We want the easiest way to solve a problem in relationships. We're looking for the easiest route. And sometimes the easiest route is to do nothing and just wait to see what happens. This is why so many people never start that business. This is why so many people never lose that weight. This is why so many people never are able to repair that relationship. This is why so many people are never able to apply themselves and get the most out of themselves and really begin to grow, because we always begin to place things in this area called a comfort zone. When in our brain we begin to set something as outside of that comfort zone, then you're going to always get these feelings of, I don't want to do it, right? So that's why sometimes it's hard for people to be consistent working out or eating a certain way, because it's comfortable to eat what you want, to do what you want, to sit and do nothing, right? There's nothing you have to worry about. It's familiar, it's known, you don't have to think about it, right? It's more comfortable to not address that thing you need to address, to not take the steps toward entrepreneurship that you're supposed to take, to not, fight for more learning and growth, to keep telling yourself, I'm not good in math. I'm not able to talk in front of people. I'm not able, right? That's familiar to you. That's comfortable for you. And this is why a lot of times, as soon as the brain puts it into that outside comfort zone area, as soon as we define it as outside the comfort zone, then we are justified in our mind. We're justified on why we won't do that. Let's stay in the comfort zone, right? And so this zone is so important. And I want you to understand something about this comfort zone as well. So let me show you another area here. So I want you to understand something. So we might start off, right? And here is our comfort zone. But when we get addicted to something, or we get too involved in something, right, and we just really start to get comfortable in a particular thing that we want to do, did you know your comfort zone can shrink, right? So now my comfort zone has shrunk from here to here. So let's say somebody loves video games. Somebody loves, maybe sitting at home and, doing, tinkering with some sort of hobby or whatever, right? And they got in a dark place and they've gotten comfortable just sitting at home laying down. They just don't want to face the world. They just don't want to deal with things, right? So what happens is you can get so comfortable in that rut that your comfort zone has become sitting there thinking about why your life isn't the way it should be, and eating and watching TV, and you start getting comfortable. You just numb yourself with video games or social media or some other thing, eating, whatever it is, right? And once that comfort zone shrinks, now the things that you used to do in your comfort zone, now even those things have become something that you don't even do that anymore, because you're now in this, right, this smaller comfort zone, and you're living in that smaller box, right? So conversely, we want to be able to be always, we want to be always enlarging that comfort zone, right? Getting more comfortable doing more things, right? And we're going to talk about this, but the pathway to growing that comfort zone is actually through discomfort, right? So we're going to talk about that, but that's very important to understand. Are you expanding your comfort zone to be more comfortable doing certain things? But to do that, you had to have discomfort to get comfortable first. So you had to have the discomfort first to get comfortable, and then your comfort zone is expanding, because now you can add this inside of a zone of comfort that you can speak in front of people, that I actually can handle certain levels of math. I did start that business and go through the struggle. I was able to meet that demand from my job. I faced that fear that I had of, this particular thing, whatever that thing is, right? So we have to really begin to embrace that and understand, is our comfort zone shrinking because we're living a life that is so attached to comfort that I start going deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm actually making that comfort zone smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, here's another key thing that I want to explain to you about comfort zone. Now, here's another thing I want you to see. So a best way of saying this is that when you think about the comfort zone, right? So when you think about inside of order is comfort. So when there's order, consistency, things are happening in an orderly fashion, things are expected. So, we want order, we want some order in our life, order in our business, but the dangers of order is order brings comfort. I'm used to doing this all the time, so I'm comfortable, right? I'm comfortable doing it because it's what I always do. It has an order to it. So this is good. Now, I want you to really look at this when you think about order bringing comfort. Now, let's look at this a little bit deeper. So if you look at disorder, right? Disorder, inside of disorder is growth. Now you say, oh my God, what are you talking about here? So I want you to think about that. Inside of disorder is actually growth. Because have you ever been in a situation, if any of you are entrepreneurs out there, if any of you ever had to do something new in your business, if you had to take on a new task as a professional, if you had to, got some news from a doctor and you had to change your life and your eating habits, it gets disorderly first, right? It's disorderly, like, I don't even know what to do. This is disrupting everything that I know. Right? If you're an entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about when things start getting disorderly, and now you start getting into a point where it's like, okay, I got to stay up late nights. I got to deal with reports. I've got to, I never had to deal with people. Someone's mad at me. Someone is upset at what I'm saying or what I'm doing, and all that disorderliness, it feels bad. It feels like something that's all over the place, but growth is happening, right? You're learning how to grow. You're learning how to ascend. Why? Because you're going through things. In that disorderliness, it's creating growth. So we get to the point where that disorder and growth starts to create order and comfort. And then again, we disrupt that with some more disorder because it gets difficult. You have to grow, you have to do things, and it's a cycle, right? So we start going through this cycle, but I want you to be aware of this, that, order brings comfort. So don't think that order is always a good thing. So when you get to your life to a place of order and you start to get comfortable, you got to be careful that order hasn't created a comfort that is stopping you from growing. So sometimes you need some disorder. You have to disrupt your life and do things differently. You have to change. You can't get comfortable on that job. You can't get comfortable with your dreams. You can't get comfortable with your goal. You can't get comfortable with where you're at with your health, right? You have to keep creating a new challenge, a new disorder. You have to trigger sometimes disorder to create growth, right? So this is extremely, extremely important when you think about, how do I actually make sure that I continue to grow? How do I actually continue to make sure I'm not letting comfort, cause me to become stagnant, right? So this is extremely critical. So make sure you see the differences in these two. We're dealing with comfort and we're dealing with growth, right? And both of these are related to order and disorder, right? So you have to evaluate that. Is there anywhere that maybe I'm getting a little bit too attached to order where I'm not having any growth, right? Very, very key. Now, I want to talk to you about some different layers here. When you think about, all the things that we're covering here, right, about growth, and I hope you're already getting a lot out of this. And again, if you've not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe, like, comment. And I want to challenge you. Here's a little bit of discomfort for you to share this live video right now with somebody that you know needs to hear this, right? Who wants to grow. Well, someone, put that in when you share it, put your comfort zone is killing you. Find out why. Right? Let them know what you're listening to right now. This is so critical. There's so many of us that are stuck in that situation. And that's the reason we've not taken that step forward. It's the reason we've not done certain things. Now, I want you to understand something about comfort and going back for a minute to inside and outside of the comfort zone. Let's go back to where we started. Now, sometime I want you to understand the comfort zone doesn't always mean bad, and outside the comfort zone doesn't always mean good. So I want to make sure you understand that. So just to add this element to it really quickly, what if it was in my comfort zone to, what if it was in my comfort zone to be rude, right? If it was my comfort zone to be rude to people, then that comfort zone is actually, no. Let me do this the other way. I'm sorry. Let me do it this way. That's actually the other way around. Let's say it was in my comfort zone to be disciplined with money. Well, that's good. That's a good thing. And you don't want to say, get out of your comfort zone and be undisciplined with money, right? No, that's a good thing, right? Or if it was out of my comfort zone to be kind to others, right? If it was outside of my comfort zone to be kind, this is what I wanted. This is where I wanted the rude. If it was outside of my comfort zone to be rude to people, then, that's not good. So you can say, get out of your comfort zone and be rude to people. So I want to make sure you just understand this small distinction that outside of comfort zone doesn't always mean good, and being in your comfort zone doesn't always mean bad. So you have to be really clear, what are the things and where are the areas that, comfort zone is really hurting you by keeping you stagnant, complacent, and where are the areas that getting outside of your comfort zone will create growth. So let's get back here to, I want to actually walk through something with you. So when you think about, I want to talk to you about 5 levels that are extremely important. The first level I want to show you is the level of comfort. Okay? And comfort, we've been talking a lot about that. That comfort zone is where a lot of us tend to stay, right? And this is why a lot of times we don't take any steps toward anything. We keep living the same life we've always lived. We don't push ourselves, because it's comfortable, right? And so what we have to move to is a higher level, which is complex. Now, complex is something that also can mean something that's hard, something that requires, a serious effort. And one of the things we have to begin to grow accustomed to is that we need complexity to make room for us to grow. So when you keep saying, I don't want to do anything that's difficult or hard, you never will grow. And in fact, complexity, comfort is very dangerous because, growing up in a situation where I was in a household where there was some domestic violence, and I actually watched someone keep going back to a place of comfort, even though there was violence, even though they were being hurt, but that had become a comfort zone. In some weird, twisted way, it started to be seen as love, right? Someone actually hurting you. So you can create a comfort zone out of something very damaging, where you're actually hurting yourself mentally, you're hurting yourself physically. So what? The complexity of dealing with what it may feel like to rise above that, right? To fight through that. It creates room for another person, for another growth spurt in your life, but you're not able to do that because you don't want to get through this phase of complexity. So you keep telling yourself it's too hard, it's going to take too long, I don't have the ability to do it, I'm not good enough to do it, I'm not smart enough to do it, I don't have these skills. You keep comparing yourself to other people instead of realizing that complexity is healthy. That it's okay for it to feel hard for a minute. It's okay to have some bumps and bruises. It's okay not to get it right the first time when you're trying to take that next step in your growth. And that leads us to the next area, which is cultivate, right? So we want to cultivate something. Now, after you have complexity, it creates room for something to grow. Now, I want to talk about, let's come back to this complexity a little bit. I want to share a quick story with you. So there was a situation in 1955 where there was a lot of segregation. And through segregation, there was a lot of rules. And think about it. It had become the comfort zone of the South to segregate people and give people lesser opportunities than some people who had more opportunities. And using the bus, for example, if you were a person of African-American descent, you had to sit a certain ways back on the bus. And this particular day, a young lady was on the bus sitting, kind of at the beginning part of where people of color were supposed to be able to sit. But the bus started to get overcrowded, right? With Caucasian people, or white America, you could say at the time, and they asked her to move back. Even though she was in the spot she was supposed to be, they asked her to move back further, and she refused, right? And so they had gotten comfortable in that whole area, and through the complexity of her actually saying, I'm going to do something that's very hard. I'm going to say I'm not moving. And they took this 15-year-old girl to jail. So yes, no, I'm not talking about Rosa Parks right now. This was before Rosa Parks, was in the same year. I want to introduce you to her. Go back to my whiteboard here. This is Claudette Calvin. And she was the 15-year-old girl in 1955. Think about it, in handcuffs, taken to prison, and took that complexity to break up the comfort. And through that, there's so much that came out of it, right? Later came Rosa Parks. Later came Dr. King. Later came the Montgomery bus boycott movement. This all happened in Montgomery as well. And this was really the beginning, which a lot of people don't talk about, that actually spearheaded, even before Rosa Parks. And my point is, complexity creates room for something to grow. And at some point, you have to make a decision that I'm going to take the complexity, right, so that I can grow. You can't keep saying, I'm afraid to speak on video. I'm afraid to talk to others. I'm afraid to put myself out there. I'm afraid to actually start the business and tell someone I have a product and ask them, will they buy it? I'm afraid to actually put myself in a position where I can let people notice my talents and my abilities. You have talents, you have abilities, but your comfort zone is stopping them from coming through. It's stopping them from being able to be shown and displayed to others. So we talk about this, and going back here, this is why we have to begin to cultivate something, right? This is where seeds begin to be planted. And from that seed, something begins to grow, right? And we want, if you're going to begin to grow as an individual, you've got to begin to go through the complexity. And when you do, what does cultivate mean? That means to actually start to nurture a seed, right? It's to cause something to actually be nourished for growth. And this is what, we begin to do. We start to nourish. Next thing you know, stuff starts showing up, right? Talents and abilities, right? Because you were willing to go through the complexity. There was nothing in my life that I've been able to achieve if it wasn't for complexity. I have never grown in comfort. I've always grown in complexity. When I was challenged with whether or not I was going to, go through a situation when I was a young man and decide I had to change locations. I went to 6 different elementary schools. I fought for my education. When I was behind in my education, I had to go to summer school. It was complex for me, but I grew. And because I was willing to fight to catch up, I became a 4.0 student after being willing to do that. When I was asked to give a presentation to a Kia Toyota as a young, just a young professional working in Toyota, and I could have said, no, I don't think I can do it. I'm new, I'm young and all that. But no, I said, I'll give the presentation. Sure, it was uncomfortable. Sure, I had some concern about whether I could do it, but I took on the complexity and it caused me to grow. When I was in Japan and I couldn't speak the language and I was with other people that I never knew, and I was I had never been out of the country. It was complex. I was uncomfortable when I handed that letter to the taxi driver and hoped he took me to the right place. And I went all across Japan and North America. But what happened after that? I grew, right? So what are you willing to do to grow? Are you willing to take the complexity so you can cultivate, so you can grow? I remember when I was in Chicago and an individual, his grandmother died. He couldn't give the presentation. They asked would I give it to all the executives in Toyota, and I said, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'm going to do my best. What happened? It gave me fame in the company. People got to know my talents. I grew from that complexity. And the list goes on. So I can look at some of the worst things I've been in my life, the worst things I've come through, things I went through in my childhood and even my adulthood. But did you know the worst things that I've ever come through have given me the most opportunity to grow and to help people? My life in the worst moments has helped me relate to other people's pain and help them be better because I know what it feels like. I've got a secret weapon in my complexity that I've come through. So never look at complexity as a bad thing. Stop telling yourself that it's too hard. Stop sitting down when you should stand up. Stop waiting for something to come and get better before you take action. Stop laying in the bed of procrastination. Stop laying on the couch of excuses. Stop telling yourself that there's time later to get this right. Stop waiting to start your business. Stop waiting to go further along in the training and education that you need. There's some of you that know about URCL. I'm glad you're here on YouTube. Some of you should be members in the community, investing in your success, going deeper in your knowledge and your wisdom. Stop waiting to spend money on you. You're worth it. Think about that when you think about cultivating something, right? This is what we're talking about. Now, when you start to cultivate, let's go back here. I hope I got your attention now, and if you don't, I hope that you are thinking now and being honest about your places of comfort. Something has to change, right? I want to provoke some of that change. Look what it says here on the whiteboard. We have to connect now. So we now, after we cultivate, What can we connect to now? Opportunities. Now, here's the mistake that people make. They're waiting for someone to come and give them success. Someone to come and give them the thing that's going to make them be a millionaire. Come and give them the knowledge, give them the wisdom. Someone just to believe them because they said that this is what they're going to do and what they are about to do. All right? But cultivate also has a lot to do with becoming something. You have to become that. So when you cultivate something and you actually become that thing, you can connect to opportunities, because what do they want? They want what you become. And how did you become that? Through being willing to take complexity, get out of your comfort zone, stop waiting, stop making excuses, right? So now I'm able to connect to opportunity. Real opportunities start to come my way. People want to do business with me. People want to hear from me. People want to hear my story. People want to use my talents. People want to be around what I'm able to deliver and what I'm able to give, because I am that. I've paid for it. I've bought it because I was willing to go through the complexity. I'm not afraid to talk to you about this. I know everything about it. I put the work in, right? I'm not afraid to explain to you about this or that. I put the work in. I'm not afraid to try because I've tried before. I know what I'm doing because I've tried, right? And lastly, this brings you to compensate. And when you go through these steps, you get to the point where you're able to start making money, as well as, sometimes the compensation is value, right? Sometimes it's a compliment, whatever those things are, right? Not always money, but we all need money. And if you want to make money, you can see how far away the money is from your comfort zone. There's a pathway. You want to make money? There's no reason that some of us, as entrepreneurs, there's no reason you can't make $100,000 a year as an entrepreneur. There's no reason you couldn't make $500,000 a year. There's no reason you couldn't make $1 million a year. There's no reason that you can't do that. If you really apply yourself and you really begin to understand what it takes to do that, and you become that something that delivers value because you're confident in who you are and you're clear about what you bring and you've connected to what you have, and you become that thing that is going to cause people to want to work with you, there's no reason you shouldn't be compensated if you understand that. Do you know your value? Is your value stuck in a place of comfort? That's why you don't understand what you're worth. And you don't feel you're worth anything because you're staying in that place of comfort. But after you come through that complexity, you're going to know your worth. When you come through certain things, no one has to tell you if you know about that, right? You fell several times trying to ride a bike, and you fell and you fell and you fell, and then you start riding that bike and someone try to tell you you don't know how to ride a bike. You can tell them, I know how to ride a bike, and I know all about riding a bike. I paid a price to know how to ride this bike, right? And you have to be that way about everything that you're trying to accomplish, everything that you're striving for. You have to be willing to go through these steps. This is what it's all about, being able to go through and pursue these steps. You're going to go through things. Things are going to happen. As someone often said, life is like an onion. You peel it back one layer at a time, and sometimes you cry. That's very true. Sometimes you cry, but don't let that stop you from running towards the complexity so you can grow. Don't let that stop you, right? I want you to really keep those things in mind. And I love, when Dr. King used to say that you have to straighten your back up, because a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. So we have to stand up to complexity. We have to stand up to say, I want to grow. I'm not going to stay where I've been. There's something right now in your life as you watch this video that you're in the comfort zone on, and you have to get out of that comfort zone. You have to push past that. Stop telling yourself you can't. You can, right? And if you fall, as another man said, at least land on your back so you're looking up, and if you can look up, you can get up. And this is what we have to keep doing. Keep getting up. Keep standing up. Keep going through the complexity, right? How do you grow muscles? By tearing muscle fibers. It's only through the complexity of that something is cultivated, strength is cultivated. And so I ask you, and I challenge you, after this video is over, to come back to this video. It's going to post. Some of you are here live, but come back, and I want you to post what you got out of this and your commitment to growing more and getting out of your comfort zone. Talk about something. How did this impact you? What did you hear from this? Did this resonate with you at all? I would love to hear from you. I read all the comments in our YouTube video, so make sure you come back and comment. I always check them, and I want you to use this to really push yourself to go from comfort to compensation. I am Michael E. Parker, and I hope you've enjoyed this time. Make sure if you're new to this page, that you subscribe, that you like, that you comment, and that you share so more of the world can hear about you, our CEO, and what Michael E. Parker is trying to give, because I want to give everything I can to see you become the CEO of your life and truly run the business of you so you can run the business of everything else. Until we meet again, stay strong and bust out of your comfort zone. It's time to be compensated. I'll see you soon.